So what better way to find out than to take a road trip back to where I was born, with just a camera and my father, and ask him. I was born in Mitchell Bay, which is located on Malcolm Island, 200 kilometers north of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. We'll take 2 ferries and drive 5 hours to get to our destination, passing through towns like Port McNeill and Sontula on the way. And when we arrive, we'll be staying with Ralph Harris, one of the last remaining hippies from when my parents lived there. But back then, there wasn't a paved highway and an easy route like today. Instead, there was an 11 to 14-hour ferry ride, depending on the wind, through the cold Georgia Strait. I remember standing right in the front of the boat, looking at this incredible channel with snow-capped mountains on both sides and the most amazing piece of ocean. And I had never seen anything like this before. But the Georgia Strait was a long way off from sunny California.
And it must have been a sight that very night.
I can remember meeting your mother at this little old wooden shack they call the Student Union at University of California, Santa Barbara.
And it must have been the way.
I walked in the door of this place and saw this absolutely stunningly gorgeous dark-haired woman at the very end of the room.
And it must have been all right. And it must have felt okay.
I remember Gary, when I first met him, he seemed to only have 2 or 3 shirts. He had a couple pairs of jeans, and he lived in a camper. He appeared to be this person who didn't have very much money or, didn't have very many clothes. I had no idea where he came from. And so when I visited at his house, he drove me in the camper. And we went to this house that was supposed to be a little house, but turned out to be this really nice house. And I wasn't expecting that.
My parents wed 2 years after they met in Los Angeles, California. It was 1967. Both came from relatively well-off families. My father's from Pasadena, and my mother's from sunny Santa Monica. But their beginnings, like most immigrants, were filled with struggle. My mother's family escaped the pogroms in Eastern Europe after the assassination of Alexander II, landing in America during the late 1800s. My father's family fled the Mexican Revolution in 1920, when Pancho Villa terrorized landowners. I'm sure my sharpshooting great-grandfather, George R. Miller II, would have taken Pancho out, but he died a year earlier doing gun tricks. My parents were part of the baby boomer generation that came of age during the 1950s. They grew up as the healthiest and wealthiest in American history. The American dream had become a reality and was not as elusive as past generations had experienced. After the Second World War, America had become the superpower. And to fill the economic void left by wartime activities, the government encouraged the public to spend its hard-earned cash and buy. Consumerism was born.
Selling to young adults demands a new kind of marketing. It's a happy-go-spending world.
The 1950s saw suburbs spread like wildfire, home construction skyrocket, and the woman's place remain in them.
Mother, too, keeps a good appearance, even around the house, for that keeps up her spirits.
The car became more than just a chick magnet. Television found its audience. The Cold War fueled anti-communism, and segregation in all states continued.
You should learn everything you can in school, then come out and use it against them.
A small population of beatniks tried to curb the trends, but consumerism was unstoppable.
Buy it now, young adults of today. Ride with the young adults who are buying 70% of all homes sold.
Following in our parents' footsteps was suicide. Pasadena was like going to the moon. The way my parents grew up in the 50s, there's no way I could live like that. It's almost like we were born to be very different beings. We were not staying in our roles. We were not continuing to be the sons and daughters of our parents. We were just stepping outside the box, period. And LSD helped.
Lysergic acid dithalamide, or LSD, was created in the 1940s to treat mental illnesses. But with its ability to spiral thoughts into themselves, relive your own birth, and provide insights into the mind's inner workings, LSD, with its sidekick the marijuana bud, quickly became the poster children of the 1960s generation.
You know, one of the fascinating things about LSD is it gets out of your system in 20 minutes. So you're on this amazing consciousness expansion experience for another 24 hours. And it has very little to do with the drug. And a lot of political behavior and attitude came from looking at the big picture, which LSD forces you to do.
Some people experimented with drugs to escape, and then some people experimented with drugs to have a spiritual experience, because you couldn't get those so much in the West. The seeds of that time took people to all these far-off places, learning about themselves and going to gurus, and people were doing the best they could to figure out some different way of living. What's this life about? It's not just about having things.
LSD and marijuana, combined with the boomers' need to separate themselves from the consumer-driven 50s, created a new culture. Unlike their material-based predecessor, this one was founded on peace, love, and personal freedom.
We did just become hippies. We sort of discovered each other, drank a lot, started smoking pot, and there were some older beatnik guys from the 50s who influenced us somewhat. But why we grew our hair long, it just happened. It was the right thing to do.
At that time, there was the civil rights movement, there was the women's movement, there was fear about what was happening to the environment, and I just had my eyes open to what was going on around me that I hadn't been aware of before. It was the beginning of some sort of transition, some sort of realization.
The main memories from that period are hearing Bob Dylan's first record, hearing Joan Baez's first record. All of this started happening at the same time, 63, 64. It was just a real explosion of consciousness.
But 8,000 miles away in Southeast Asia, a ticking time bomb exploded.
And I am increasing the search for every possible path to peace. Not with soldiers and planes, not with bombs and bullets, but with all the wondrous weapons of peace in the 20th century. And then perhaps together, all of the people in the world can share that gracious task with all the people of Vietnam, North and South alike.
Looking at this war going on in Vietnam, it was being sold to us as a way to solve some kind of problem. But that was crazy, totally crazy. Because it was creating problems all over the place, both in the US and in Vietnam. There were no problems being solved.
I couldn't handle the responsibility, the guilt I felt for what was happening, what my country was doing, decisions that were being made and how people were being treated. And so suddenly I found myself going on marches.
We decided not to accept being lied to, you know? And that came on all of us really powerfully at a young age. And it came on thousands and thousands of other kids our age all at the same time, right across North America. And none of us have ever been the same since.